Okay friends, it's dynamic clicking day, second most annoying aim style by the way, but we got this thanks to Matty's playlist. You can find the playlist in the description in case you also suck at dynamic clicking, which we all do, well, most of us. For those of you that don't know what dynamic clicking is exactly, I think the Voltaic Aim Wiki puts it best, and they say, dynamic clicking, a subcategory of clicking scenarios/tasks where the targets are moving and, well, don't we hate it when they move? I mean, I do. Anyways, now, how do I approach my daily sessions? It's actually pretty simple. I pick a playlist for a skill I want to improve at, and I set point thresholds for myself. With this playlist, I need to either reach a high score or get within 10% of my high score 2 times in order to allow myself to move on to the next task. And when I'm done with KovaaKs, I always hop in whatever FPS game I enjoy right now to immediately implement my learnings into an actual game. I'll show my in-game high and lowlights to you at the end of the video. Back to aim training for now though. What is also important to note, I think, whenever I feel like I don't really pay enough attention to the proper technique for a task, I stop and try again to break bad habits. I am no expert with any of this, so if you have your own way of doing things, that's totally fine. I'm not here to lecture anybody about the correct tech for any of the tasks in this playlist. I want this series of videos to be kind of a progression diary for myself and everyone else to see aim training works and it is not as difficult as everyone thinks. So, in order for this to be honest and transparent, here are my Voltaic benchmarks. I have completed all novice tasks and I'm currently rated as Diamond in the intermediate ones. As you can see, I'm best at tracking tasks, and that's because I pretty much only ever play Apex Legends and similar games, like the finals for example. But I decided it's time for me to start my true aim journey, and if you want to tag along, learn a thing or two and see my improvements over time, to maybe find some motivation or even just playlists, you are at the right place. With the first task in today's playlist being a Pazu one, my frustration was a little too high at the start, which led to a bit too much tension in my forearm, but I got my 2 scores within 10% of the high score, so I could move on. After all, consistency is the most important when it comes to aiming. Nobody will wait for you in-game to hit that one miracle run. The second task was somewhat overwhelming for me as it felt like the targets were moving incredibly fast and unpredictable, but watching it back now makes me realize that's not the case, so maybe I need to revisit this task with a different approach next time. I hope I will remember that. But to be honest, I'm also not entirely sure if I make any major mistake here looking at my hand cam. I make most of the larger movements with my arm and try to micro with my hand, which should be correct. If you know better, please leave a comment. I'm always thankful for helpful input. Anyways, I get my 2 scores within 10% and move on. One wall 5 targets Pazu also felt overwhelming at first, but after a few tries I even got a high score, which admittedly I'm a little bit proud of. The same goes for Cat Per Click Hard, interesting name by the way. Immediate high score, almost as if this whole playlist actually helps me improve. Who would have thought? I'm really bad at vertical tasks, so a high score at B180 varied is easy to achieve. Moving on. And again, a vertical task, hard to play but easy to improve at. Popcorn I aim easy, which is incredibly hard by the way. Whoever put easy in there, you are evil. The last 2 also vertical ones, so pretty easy to get my scores in. One thing to note however, I tend to tense up my wrist when moving up and down constantly, so I need to be aware of that and use my arm more in these situations. Now to the final part where I dissect some of my high and lowlights from the in-game session right after. Today I played the finals mostly because they have a revolver that would benefit a lot from dynamic clicking skills. Because this is about improvement, let's first look at some of the lowlights to see what I can and should do better in the future. First one is easy. I see him and I just keep clicking without any visual confirmation that I'm actually on him, which results in almost no hits. This is a major weakness of mine by the way when I'm not warmed up. If you have this problem as well, try to build a habit of visually confirming you are on the target before you click. Works probably well in static but also in Pazu tasks, I would think. The next one is pretty similar. I make an attempt to correct for his movement, which is good, but my first shot is off, which I should then micro-correct with my wrist or hand, but instead I just keep clicking and miss too many shots. This one is close, as I only missed by a few pixels, but I think what threw my aim off here is actually my own movement. It is unpopular, but I think I should try some strafing scenarios to see if I can improve this. I get surprised, need to reload, and am almost dead. Far from ideal, but I also panic spam my 6 shots instead of taking the time needed to hit, which could have saved me, or at least put enough pressure on him to make him second guess this fight, to give me more time to react. And I think this really is a major issue for many of us with Pazu tasks. We sometimes spam click instead of taking the time to hit, so I definitely need to break that habit. So, we've reached the point where I get to show some of the nicer shots I've landed. Nothing too crazy, they don't need any extra explanation I think, so just enjoy some clean shots and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!